Hey everyone. I spoke my piece about the OM5 in a previous video, and there's some new info about the OM5 out right now that's giving me some weird feelings. Um, First, I'd like to address a few things about why I said what I said on the previous OM5 video. Um, a lot of people just think that the EM5 traditionally is just has the EM1 internals in a smaller body. But that's actually a big misconception. The only model that really only happened to was the EM5 Mark III. The EM5 actually came out in 2012, and that came out before the EM1, which came out in 2013. And it was more than a year earlier, actually. Um, and they were two very, very different cameras. While they shared a lot of some similar features, the EM1 was clearly a more robust professional tool, and the EM5 was a more premium personal camera. But they didn't have the same sensor, shutter, or processor. They were two very separate cameras. When the EM5 Mark II came out, that was around 2015. It introduced a lot of the features that we all now just love about the OM and Olympus cameras. Um, that was actually, um, I believe it was the first camera that it was okay. So the EM5 Mark II, when that came out, it was introduced as a feature-rich, affordable body, and it was actually the first camera that introduced IBIS while shooting video. Um, and that camera was actually really unique in Olympus's lineup because that actually had the same sensor that's in the GH3. And not only did it have the same sensor as the GH3, but it also had the same high bit rate that matched the GH3. It also had 1080p 60, just like the GH3. Basically, it was a GH camera with IBIS. So, um, it actually also introduced high res mode. That was the first camera that actually had high resolution mode. It was a 16 megapixel sensor, but you could take a 64 megapixel raw photo. That was really revolutionary for a lot of camera for, to have in cameras at the time. But for video, it was really kind of looked past because maybe about a few months to a year later, the GH4 came out, and that pretty much took the entire indie filmmaking world by storm. So in terms of video, it was always surpassed by the GH cameras. But in the photo world, it was still just looked down on because it was a micro four thirds sensor. Um, anyway, the following year, after that, the EM1 Mark II came out. And this is kind of where I kind of fell in love with Olympus. I was a Canon shooter at the time, but it had everything I wanted. And I actually paid, I'm actually shooting this on the EM1 Mark II. I paid for this camera, I paid $2,000 for this camera back in 2016. So this camera pretty much had everything I wanted. The EM1 Mark II was basically a supercharged version of the EM5 Mark II, and then it had a even higher bit rate. It had a better and faster high res mode. It had almost all the GH4 features, the GH4 features that I really cared about anyway, and it was fast. It was the fastest camera that I've ever used. It literally felt like a sports car in my hand. I remembered the first time I had it in my hand, I was really even now I'm still really obsessed with a fast camera, and I almost bought a 1D. I almost upgraded to a 1D, but when I had this camera in my hand, I was like, there's nothing faster than this camera. So I sprung for it because it was also $4,000 or $5,000 cheaper. But in terms of the video world, the very next year the GH5 came out, and that pretty much revolutionized the camera world. So If you're talking about, uh, it introduced 10-bit internal and pretty much every single video feature that you can think of. It was just stuffed into GH5. There was a lot of talk about how the FX30 is revolutionizing cameras nowadays, and I don't really agree with that, but I'm going to do probably another reaction video on that camera sometime soon. But anyway, back to the whole history of this whole thing. Um, a few years after the GH5, that was 2017. In 2019, that was a really weird year for Olympus. I think it was because they kind of already knew that they were going out. Maybe not. I don't know. But in 2019, again, that was a weird year. The EM1X was introduced, and it kind of threw off the whole order. This was the EM1X was a weird camera to me. I know it has its fans, and I didn't actually like it until recently. So at the time, I actually thought it was stupid. Pardon my speech, but I definitely do not feel that way now. It's grown on me, but at the time, I thought it was a waste of R&D money. All the features in that camera should have been made. It's made its way into the EM1, EM5 Mark III. That was what I thought was going to be released that year. So by the end of 2019, the EM1, the EM5 Mark III was finally introduced, and it was the biggest disappointment, I think, for a lot of Olympus fans, because it really was just a plastic body, and it was just recycled parts from the EM1 Mark II. I say all of this because the OM5 does not have to be a watered down OM1, and I think most people don't understand how expensive these sensors really are to make, and I think it's a dumb idea to put something that expensive in a camera that people are expecting to be cheap or cheaper. The rumors as it states it's going to be a single. It's going to be the same sensor as the OM1. It's going to be a single SD card slot and a slower burst speed, and it's going to have the same OM1 battery. The newest rumor is stating that it's going to have a bigger grip, similar to the EM1 Mark III. So now the OM5 really seems like it's going to be an EM1 body with the OM1 sensor. This is a good way to save money for sure. This is actually what I stated they should do in my last OM5 video. But I still think they should have gone with a higher megapixel sensor, or use the older sensor but give it an updated processor for better video features. That's something that the GH5 Mark II did. It just kept the same sensor, modified maybe a little bit of it, I guess, and then gave it a newer processor, and that was really it. And it's still, I mean, it's still a beast of a camera in my opinion. So rumors are stating that it's going to be, the OM5 is going to be priced at around $1599. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in that price area, in that 1400 to 1600 area. If it really does have the OM1 sensor, that's a fair price for it. It'll be the lowest priced BSI and stacked sensor, which is the most expensive part of the camera. I would say, to even cut costs a little bit more, they should have just went with a BSI sensor without stacking. That probably would have helped, but I don't even know if there is a 20 megapixel BSI only sensor, so I don't even know. But anyway, all the cameras in that price range aren't BSI and stacked. The Canon R7 is only front side illuminated. It's only an FSI. The FX30, which is a video only camera, so it's not really competing against it directly. But if you're a video shooter looking at both, the FX30 is backside illuminated. It's BSI, but it's not stacked. The Fuji X-H2 is BSI, but it's not stacked. But it's also 40 megapixels. The GH6 is, it's not a new sensor. It's not a new technology. there's not really any new technology per se in the sensor, but it has that dynamic range boost, which I think is not really an attribute of the. My cat just jumped on the um, thing up here. Hold on. Okay. The what was I? I was talking about the XH2. The XH2 is a BSI, but not stacked, but it is 40 megapixels. Oh no, I was talking about the GH6. Sorry, the GH6 is a it's not a new sensor, or it's the sensor in it is older technology, is what I meant to say. It's a front side illuminated sensor, but it has the dynamic range boost, which I suspect is more um, has more to do with the processor than it does with the sensor. The GH5 Mark II is only a front side illuminated sensor. All of these cameras, none of these cameras have a backside illuminated, a BSI, and stacked. So yeah, I definitely think if it is priced in that price, if it is priced in that 1400 to 1600 area, I think that's a fair price for it. I actually think they'll probably, unless they're literally using the EM1 body, they'll probably be losing somewhere. But anyway, it's clear that OM Digital Solution is mainly listening to their niche fan base. So this camera will probably sell well to them. But it's also clear that they aren't going to be getting any, they aren't going to be getting very many new customers. Okay, I had to stop that last video because I actually recorded that, I think 2 weeks ago, or if not 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago. It's been a while, and I'm just now getting through edits. But um, there was a recent leak of the OM5 on 43rumors.com. So go there for all of your rumor stuff. But I'm looking at it now, and it completely looks fake. It doesn't say, or it doesn't have that new grip that it states that it's going to have, the previous rumor is going to have a larger grip. So I don't know. That might actually be a wrong rumor if this is how it's going to look, but it looks just like an E-M5. Um, but yeah, hopefully it's not plastic. But one interesting thing that it shows is the pricing, that 14.99 or possibly 15.99 price tag includes the 12 to 45 Pro lens. If that's the case, that is a hell of a deal because that's a killer lens. So now you'll have an extremely well priced camera with a a decent starter kit lens and a BSI and stack sensor. And as I was stating, in that price range, there's no other camera that has the potential speed that this sensor has. At that price with that lens, that could actually, I changed my mind. That can change a lot of minds. And I'm realizing now that it is slower. So it's 15 frames per second, but we don't, that could just be mechanical. And it could, I mean, it could technically be faster if it's electronic. It could literally just be a mini OM1. And if that's the case, I mean, they could just be using the older shutter. I don't know. I don't know too much about it, and I'm really interested in. I'm more interested in it now that I know that it's coming out with that 14.9. After sitting down and really thinking about it, I don't know. It definitely has its place. it has its place, but at the same time, I feel like um, the better camera to have chosen to come out next should have actually been the Pen F with the OM1 sensor. Um, but I don't know. That's not really my market. I like a bigger grip. So the OM5 is not has I have no interest in the OM5. I would have interest in the OM5 if it had the same grip and feel of the EM1 because I actually like the EM1 the way that feels better than the OM1. There now that I've had the OM1 for a few months, there's little things about it that I don't like as much as I like um, as much as I like on the EM1. So who knows? But that's kind of a I don't know that caught me off guard. The 14.99 with the 12 to 45. That's got me thinking. I mean, that's pretty good. That's aggressively priced. The other price is 11.99. These are UK prices, so I don't know what it would translate to here. It's usually 1 to 1, but the price of the OM5 for the body alone is 11.99. Especially, I mean, the only competition at that price tag is the Canon R10. Yeah, the Canon R10's at 10.99. I have zero interest in that camera. That's really nothing. That's really nothing to me. What else is there? Nikon Z50, right? Nikon Z50s. Okay, that's pretty cheap. But I don't think that's the newest one. I don't know. But the only thing that rings that is in my head is the Canon R100, just because that just came out recently. Yeah, I think the Z50 is the most recent one. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. That's pretty good. I mean, that might actually sell pretty well. So I changed my mind. What my original closing was just me complaining a little bit, but this is actually pretty good. All right. So thanks. That was a, I've never really had one of these like added edits. So thanks for watching. And I really do appreciate everyone that talks to me and comes over and tells me. It really it makes me love doing these because I know that I'm helping or talking to just the community in general. I really enjoy. So thanks again for watching and have a great day.